us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017.
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars. And you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax because...
Ironically, many of the corporations that pay the highest taxes.
Class some relief, because they have been hit hard over the last decade, over the last 15, over the last 20 years. So 4 years ago, I stood on a stage just like this one. Actually, it was at town hall, and I said I would cut taxes.
Give the wealthy and corporations the biggest tax cuts they've ever had.
If they're not going to increase some taxes.
Well, that's right. I mean, they do want to raise taxes.
$1,000 a year will pay a penny more in federal taxes.
In a nation built on ideals of equality and opportunity, the wealth gap still stands as a reminder of the challenges many Americans face to this day. This video will explain the complex chain of factors contributing to economic disparities and present innovative solutions that can pave the way for a more equitable future. From historic inequalities rooted in discrimination to the modern challenges created by globalization and technological advancements, the wealth gap in America has deep roots that continue to impact many people.
Through thoughtful analysis and expert insights, we will explore the nature of this issue, acknowledging its impact on various communities in the broader socio-economic fabric. Racial discrimination plays a pivotal role in creating the wealth gap in America. Historical patterns of systemic racism, such as redlining and discriminatory lending practices, have systematically limited access to housing and capital for minority communities. The 2016 survey of consumer finances showed that the net worth of a median black household is $17,100. This is 10 times less than the net worth of the median white household, which is $171,000.
Discrimination in employment opportunities, unequal pay, and limited access to quality education further compound the problem, creating a multifaceted barrier for individuals from minority communities. Addressing racial discrimination is therefore not only a moral problem, but a crucial step towards dismantling the structural inequalities that undermine the wealth gap in America.
Single mothers face unique and formidable challenges in the wealth gap, often navigating a world where economic hardships are intensified. The disparity in wages, coupled with the gender pay gap, places single mothers at a significant economic disadvantage. This wage problem not only diminishes their immediate financial resources, but it also hampers their ability to save and invest for the future, causing a cycle of economic struggle.
Furthermore, the lack of financial safety for single mothers contributes to their heightened accessibility of the wealth gap. Absence of dual income households means that there are unforeseen expenses or emergencies that have disproportionately severe impact on the financial stability. Single mothers earn income that places them well below married mothers in the income ladder. The gap between these two groups is significantly large. The median income for families led by a single mother in 2021 was about $51,168, well below the $106,921 median for married couples, while single mothers are much more likely to be poor than married couples. The official poverty rate for single mother families in 2021 was 31.3%, nearly 5 times more than the rate of 5.4% for married couple families. Addressing the wealth gap necessitates recognizing and understanding the specific hurdles faced by single mothers, advocating for policies that support equal pay, affordable childcare, and broader economic opportunities for women in general. Women struggle to fund their kids' education, healthcare, and use food stamps to ensure that they don't go broke.
The wealth gap in America is not just a matter of income disparities. It fundamentally undermines the economic stability at various levels. According to recent statistics, the top 1% of households in the United States possesses more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. This extreme concentration of wealth contributes to a lack of economic resilience for the majority of Americans.
Furthermore, the wealth gap creates unequal access to educational opportunities, which limits upward mobility in economic tiers. Studies show that students from low-income families often face challenges in pursuing higher education due to financial constraints, thus hindering their ability to gain the skills needed for well-paying jobs. This cycle of limited education and economic disadvantage is reflected in the fact that the median wealth of white households is nearly 10 times that of black households and 8 times that of Hispanic households.
Moreover, the lack of wealth for many Americans translates into a limited ability to invest, save, or withstand financial shocks. Pew Research from 2019 revealed that 68% of upper-income Americans had personal investments in the stock market, versus only 38% of middle-income earners and 14% of low-income Americans. The absence of a financial safety net contributes to cycles of debt and poverty. Data indicates that a significant percentage of Americans do not have enough savings to cover a modest emergency expense. More than 1 in 5 Americans have no emergency savings, underscoring the precarious financial situation for a substantial portion of the population.
As we navigate through potential solutions to this complex problem, we seek to encourage viewers to consider their roles as active participants in sharing a more equitable society. By inspiring dialogue and promoting awareness, we aim to cultivate a collective commitment to dismantling barriers and fostering an environment where economic prosperity is within reach for all.
This leads us to our solution. We have created a bill called the Economic Equity and Opportunity Act. This bill is designed to address the wealth gap in America by implementing measures to promote economic equity and opportunity for all citizens. Recognizing the importance of a fair and inclusive economy with a large functional middle class, this legislation seeks to create a more level playing field and reduce disparities in wealth.
To understand our solution, we first need to understand how taxation works in the U.S. and some of the issues within this system that contribute to the wealth gap. There are 3 main categories of things people are taxed on: taxes on what you earn, taxes on what you buy, and taxes on things you own. Taxes on what you earn would include individual income taxes, corporate taxes, payroll taxes, and capital gains taxes, which go to things like Medicare and Social Security. Taxes on things you buy include sales tax, gross receipts tax, value-added taxes, and excise taxes. Taxes on things you own would be property taxes, tangible personal property taxes, estate and inheritance taxes, and wealth taxes. The taxes that will mainly be discussed are individual income taxes and corporate income taxes. Individual income taxes, as they sound, are based on people's individual income. Wages, investments, salaries, and household earnings are things that fall under taxed income. The way these work is very malleable in the sense that the higher someone earns, the higher they're supposed to pay in taxes. These are called tax brackets. There are 7 different brackets corresponding to an income level. Currently, they go from 10% to 12% to 22% to 24% to 32% and to 37%. A corporate income tax, or a CIT, is a tax imposed by federal and state governments based on the business profits of a company. CITs are primarily paid by C corporations, which are business structures where the owner's income is taxed apart from the corporation, meaning the business is taxed, not the individual who runs it. According to the California Tax Service Center, the annual tax for C corporations is the greater 8.84% of the corporation's net income, or $800. Because of this separation in C corporations, if a business does not do well or it fails, the only financial loss to the owner would be the amount they invested in themselves. However, the CIT can negatively affect these businesses because they can result in lower wages for employees and higher prices on products. Other business types known as pass-through businesses are not subject to the CIT. These include partnerships, S corporations, LLCs, and sole proprietorships. These pass-through businesses, which are most commonly small businesses, are not corporately taxed because instead, they are taxed on an individual level.
Issues with these corporations arise, however, when they are taken advantage of by top earners to evade taxes. The top earners who have an income of at least $200,000 in America hide over 20% of their earnings from the IRS, and the top 1% of earners account for over a third of unpaid federal taxes. The wealthy evade taxes through accounting techniques that are hard to trace, like offshore tax shelters, pass-through businesses, and complex conservation easements. Offshore tax shelters are territories with relaxed tax laws, no income tax, or reduced tax rates, where people place their money as to not be taxed in the U.S. Pass-through businesses, as explained earlier, are not subject to the CIT. These businesses self-report their income on the tax returns of their owners and are taxed in individual rates, creating a loophole in which owners can pay less in taxes and keep more. Complex conservation easements are based off of property tax, which is a taxation of land, buildings, and occasionally vehicles and equipment. According to the Tax Foundation, property tax accounts for over 70% of total local tax collections and over 30% of total state and local tax. In complex conservation easements, the usefulness of a property is lowered, and so its value, meaning that can justify for a tax reduction. All of these loopholes create opportunities for wealthy individuals to discreetly and unfairly evade taxes, which they should be paying. The first section of our bill includes tax reforms through progressive taxation. We must implement a more progressive tax system, centered around closing loopholes that disproportionately benefit the wealthy. We will address corporate tax accountability by establishing stricter regulations on corporate tax practices to prevent tax evasion and ensure that corporations contribute their fair share to the national economy. This includes an increase in funding to the IRS, which we will then highlight later in our budget proposal.
In terms of education and workforce development, we will implement an affordable education initiative in which we allocate funds to make quality education more affordable. These initiatives will work to reduce the cost of higher education and will be federally funded.
Alongside education initiatives, we will develop workforce training programs by establishing these federally funded programs. This will provide training and reskilling opportunities for workers, each with a focus on industries with high growth potential.
As living costs differ from state to state, it is important for minimum wage to reflect how much workers spend on housing. We will implement a national living wage standard which is adjusted across regions to reflect the cost of living in different areas of the United States. With this, we will work to strengthen labor laws by allocating funds to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in order to protect workers' rights, ensure fair workplace conditions, and promote equal pay for equal work.
The next part of our bill deals with healthcare access. We will start by expanding access to affordable healthcare by funding, enhancing, and protecting existing healthcare programs. In this, we will make sure that comprehensive mental health coverage is a mandatory component of healthcare plans in order to address the holistic well-being of individuals and families.
To promote economic opportunity for the next generation of middle-class citizens, we propose to introduce a new program into schools that will promote entrepreneurship education in schools and communities. This will help foster a culture of innovation and business ownership.
In order to monitor and regulate these issues, we will have a funded task force responsible for overseeing the implementation of this act and recommended adjustments based on economic trends and emerging challenges.
In terms of funding, this bill will be costly, but it's absolutely essential in taking the first steps towards repairing the U.S. economic wealth gap crisis. The budgeting plan is outlined here.
We will allocate $30 billion in funding to the IRS centered around closing corporate tax loopholes, raising capital gains taxes for higher income earners, and ensuring a fair distribution of the tax burden. This makes up 10% of our federal funding to this bill.
We will allocate $50 billion to improve educational opportunities, focusing on low-income communities. This includes funding for updated facilities, teacher training, and technological infrastructure to bridge the education gap. This allocation accounts for 30% of our funding.
We will invest $35 billion in workforce training programs, partnering with industries to ensure alignment with market demands. We will also establish apprenticeship initiatives and online learning platforms to enhance skills for underrepresented individuals. This makes up 20% of our bill's federal funds.
We will dedicate $25 billion to establishing federal living wages. This money will fund the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and will be used to protect workers' rights. This fund accounts for 15% of our bill's allocations.
We will invest $40 billion in expanding healthcare access in underserved communities. This includes building community health centers, subsidizing healthcare premiums, and addressing mental health disparities. This accounts for 25% of our funding.
This budget proposal, totaling $180 billion, aims to systematically address the wealth gap by investing in key areas crucial for socioeconomic mobility. Through strategic funding, these initiatives can contribute significantly to creating a more equitable and inclusive society.
We will allocate necessary funds for the successful implementation of this bill, ensuring that resources are directed towards initiatives with the greatest impact on economic equity.
By enacting the Economic Equity and Opportunity Act, the government aims to create a fair and inclusive economic system that provides opportunity for all citizens to thrive and contribute to the nation's prosperity.